I know I overuse this phrase to all hell and back, but we have truly never been more back. Oh my god. You might not know it considering how Marvel's marketed the season, but the first episode of Daredevil Born Again Season 2 is finally here, and it was so great. This gave me so much faith in the creative team going forward, and you're telling me people said the season starts slow? If that's supposed to be slow like the early reviews were saying, then we need to prepare for the insane season they're about to cook up. Even as someone who enjoyed Season 1, there is a noticeable improvement across the board here. The visuals are better, the story is more focused, Cherry is suffering, and there's a renewed sense of soul that feels more in line with the Netflix series than ever before. It does such a good job easing us into the new status quo as we explore the hellscape that is Fisk's New York City with brutal action and meaningful character moments. Every scene feels important as they take their time re-establishing these characters with a refined direction. Matt's role as this revolution leader who's begun to doubt himself is great, and I love how much Karen Page gets to do. Her absence was sorely felt last season, but it's the side characters that are most noticeably better. My biggest critique about the last season was how little the side characters had to do, and now the creative team has gone out of their way to fix that as every single one is given something to do that is not only interesting, but directly ties into the overarching narrative of the season. New York feels more alive than it ever has been before in the MCU as this powder keg is about to explode, and this episode feels like they just lit the match. We are building to something big, and I cannot wait to see how it goes. If things are only supposed to get better from here, then we are in for a treat. It truly feels like another rebirth for Born Again in all the right ways as they've laid this solid foundation for something special. And that's pretty much all I can say without getting into spoilers, so consider that a warning and go watch the episode. I don't know why you'd watch this video before watching the episode anyways, but just go watch it already or I'm gonna crush your head like a grape. Let's start with the main story for this episode, because I feel like that makes the most sense. That's what you want to hear me talk about most, so here we go. The episode opens with Daredevil actively trying to dismantle Fisk's operation in whatever way he can, and we get this really great opening action scene on the Northern Star, a ship transporting weapons into the city for Fisk. I thought this was a really great way to open the episode that pretty much set the tone for what we can expect this season. For starters, we get to see Matt in this underdog position as he's going against this entire ship alone without any help, trying to do what he can to stop Fisk from getting these dangerous weapons. And that already does a great job painting this picture of a David vs. Goliath fight that Matt is going up against this season. Good Bible reference for you, because Daredevil, he likes the Bible. He loves touching it. But more importantly, it also lets us see Matt actively inciting change in the city, going out there and doing these grand acts to show that help is out there. He is a symbol now, representing hope for the entire city, and this big gesture is going to go a long way to help the citizens feel like they're not alone. But more than anything, it just goes so hard. The action in this opening rips. I love the way he's moving around and using his billy clubs more when fighting. It makes him feel like the comic Daredevil a lot more than previously as he's actually using his weapons. And I feel like he's definitely getting more violent than ever, right? I mean, you saw the way he split that man's arm open so casually. He is not mentally okay, and that's when Daredevil is at his best. When it comes to the anti-vigilante task force, he's not pulling his punches, and that is the right way to go. Can we just play that one more time real quick, because that made me sit up in my seat. Oh, it is so satisfying. But besides the great choreography, this opening action set piece does a lot to show us the technical improvements they've made all around. The Newton Brothers score is incredible. They continue not to miss, but it's in the cinematography where this episode shines. It is noticeably better. The color grading is more crisp and vibrant as there's a deeper contrast that lets you see the images much better on screen with so much less fog. Not that fog. I still haven't forgiven you for that. I'm talking about all the fog they love to put in the fight scenes. I cannot tell you how happy I am that they turned off that damn fog machine. It's so rewarding when you can actually see the action happening on screen. And unsurprisingly, the camera work this episode is phenomenal. There's a ton of that classic Benson and Moorhead style that adds a lot to the episode, like bringing back the aspect ratio change for the radar sense. That's one of the coolest things ever and such a creative use of the visual medium. But with that, Benson and Moorhead bring more of their style to this episode as we get to see fun stuff like this mannequin match cutting to the back of Fisk's head. Incredible shot, made me laugh out loud. That is just mwah, chef's kiss. No notes. For as great as that is though, it's this shot right here of Daredevil rising and casting a shadow over this helpless goon before knocking him out and aura farming like crazy that put the biggest smile on my face when the first time we see Daredevil this season was his beautiful double Ds, and oh boy, I'm finally going to be able to talk about that gorgeous costume because it is far and away the best Daredevil has ever looked in live action. season. Besides the fact that we can all admit a black suit always looks cooler, it fits Charlie Cox so much better than any other costume has, especially on the cowl. But it's those big, beautiful double Ds that steal the show, as Daredevil has finally graduated from Surf Dracula status and earned that symbol on his chest. Obviously, they should have done it 11 years ago, but I really love the in-universe justification of Matt becoming a symbol and putting the double Ds on his chest to proudly stand against Fisk, showing that Daredevil won't die, becoming this symbol for the entire city to look up to. If you're gonna make a character earn their logo, that's how you do it. It almost made that 11-year wait worth it. But to get back on track before I keep rambling too much, the fact that Fisk was willing to sink this whole ship and all the weapons on there just to spite Daredevil and not give him a win was one of the most spiteful and hateful things I have ever seen from a supervillain. This man is dedicated to ruining Daredevil's life above all else, even when it hurts himself, actively blocking the port and causing more problems for himself just so he can spin the narrative and make it seem like vigilantes are terrorists. And the fact that Charlie Cox was brave enough to go into the Hudson River for real in costume is the most insane thing I've ever seen. His love of the game is unparalleled. He got sick for real doing that, by the way. This man is a demon, putting his health at risk for our enjoyment. So yeah, if you can't tell, I really love what this opening set piece had to offer, even if the ramifications are going to make Matt's life a living hell. The anti-vigilante task force are out there with a vengeance. Straight up, Officer Powell needs to die. If I don't see that man's head on a stick by the end of the season, we're gonna have some problems. I hate this smug piece of crap so much. His stupid face just pisses me off. That woman who called him a fascist to his face rules and is my favorite character of the episode. Let's give her a spin-off right now. Despite the fact that this season was filmed a year ago, it's crazy how timely it is now as we're watching ICE do this terrorism in real time. So the fact that Born Again is more relevant than ever and taking such a bold stance against these pigs is beautiful to witness. I really appreciate when a show actually has a backbone to say something, and this whole season acting as this big analogy for what we're watching happen in real life is going to be very satisfying, watching all of them get their asses kicked because of it. I do like how this one event of the entire ship going down has made Kingpin's entire operation feel a lot more desperate. The anti-vigilante, the AVTF, it's hard to say even the acronym for this. The Anti-Vigilante Task Force, nailed it, are getting a lot sloppier and riskier in public as they do these horrible things because they think they can get away with it because they're trying to qualm this resistance after the big public display Matt did. And that extends far past the task force itself, as Buck Cashman is getting his hands dirtier than ever, torturing the ship captain and then executing him. For as much as I really enjoyed that scene as it showed just how cold Buck is as a character, the saddest thing about it is that it wasn't Cherry. I was so ready to watch that scene and start cheering every time Cherry got tortured again and again and again, but it turned out to be someone else, and if only you could have seen the way the smile fell off my face watching that happen. Thankfully, the episode did make up for that towards the end, but we'll get to that later. Cannot wait to talk about that. One of my favorite things about this season is the fact that Matt and Karen are forced to live in hiding because of the Anti-Vigilante Task Force, as they're both now wanted fugitives. It's such a drastic status quo shift from anything else we've seen in Daredevil and provides us with some really rich storytelling potential. One little detail I couldn't help but notice and need to mention is that when Matt first returns to Josie's bar where he and Karen are hiding out, the Noon Brothers play the same song from the start of Season 1, Episode 1, when Matt, Karen, and Foggy are all walking together to go to Josie's. I'm such a sucker for composers bringing back leitmotifs, and I love that basically becoming the Nelson, Murdoch, and Paige theme. And I love the idea of Matt going to Josie's and being reminded of that night, not being able to look at it the same way, but trying to remember the happy memories they had together there. With how separated Matt and Karen became after Foggy's death, it basically forces them back together again, and they wasted no time hooking up anymore, which I have to respect. With this basically being the 5th season of Daredevil, it's the first time we have a proper season of them as a couple together. We almost got there in Season 2, but then Elektra came in to basically upend that entire dynamic, and then Matt had to go and die. But now that they're stuck with each other, we're done with the constant will they won't they, as we finally get to see the man whore that is Matt Murdock enjoying true love with Karen Page. They have such great chemistry together, so I'm really excited about the prospect of seeing an entire season of that being developed without any interruptions. And for two characters who have spent their lives inventing new forms of trauma, it's nice to see them find this kind of happiness together. And I think it's a really interesting parallel to see how their happiness contrasts against the rest of New York being in complete hell. And it's made even better when you're considering the fact that they're leading this revolution together. It's this high-stakes situation as Karen is pushed into Matt's world more than she'd like to be, and that is a great way to add this whole new angle to their dynamic. I'm really looking forward to seeing how Karen Karen adapts to that and if she likes it or if she hates it, but I'm glad we're finally able to see this one true pairing together. In the back half of the episode, we get this really nice moment between the two of them as they reminisce on Nelson, Murdoch, and Paige. It's a beautifully quiet moment these two share together, but I think it does a lot to foreshadow their journeys we're gonna see this season. Karen is sure of herself and ready to take on this new role, fighting back against Fisk in a way she never has before, but Matt is noticeably much less confident in this conversation. He's unable to give a definitive answer when Karen asks him a question, and he's constantly looking for guidance. It's a new change of pace for Matt Murdock as he has a hard time adapting to this new world where he's lost and forced to ask for help for once. The cards have never been stacked against him quite like this, and you can watch him struggle in real time trying to deal with that. It's a great inverse of his arc last season where he learned to embrace Daredevil again, as he's now Daredevil full time and having to try and live up to that responsibility. You can really tell that these months fighting back against Fisk without any result are taking a toll on him. It's not like the other times where Matt is able to use the law to get one up on Fisk, as he has now taken control of that law and has his own personal private militia fighting Daredevil for him. For the first time in his life, he feels truly helpless and doesn't know what to do. One thing about Matt Murdock we've seen throughout all seasons of Daredevil is that he has always been so stubborn and sure that he's doing the right thing. So I think that taking that confidence away from him and watching him rebuild it, finding purpose as this leader of the revolution, is going to be an immensely satisfying character arc. While I'm of course excited to see more of Matt and Karen in this season, I do think one of the dynamics I'm most looking forward to is Karen and BB Urich. They're such an interesting pairing with so much history to explore, considering that Karen worked with Ben and feels guilty for getting him killed still, and now is trying to prevent BB from going down the same path Ben did, as she's trying to destroy Fisk's operation from the inside. It's a really fun dynamic to play around with because Karen doesn't want to risk BB getting in that same trouble, but she also needs her to get information on the inside that can be used to destroy Fisk. This is such a natural duo to pair together, and I really like the idea of Karen mentoring BB this season, not just because of the guilt she feels and how she can use this to help heal herself, but she is a damn good journalist, so BB is getting the best advice she possibly could. And I'm very happy that BB is going to be getting even more focus this season. She is a really interesting character and could be the key to all this if they play their cards right, so I pray to God that she doesn't end up like her uncle. Special shout out real quick to the return of the BB report. It's such a great gimmick and buffer between scenes, especially this season as we're getting to see what people on the ground level think of Fisk and his politics as it gets turned into this propaganda tool for him. It's a really cool idea to turn BB into this morally complex character who is actively contributing to the propaganda, all in an attempt to take Fisk down from the inside, that gives her so much depth as a character struggling with this push and pull between right and wrong. I'm really curious to see how it develops, especially in contrast to this other perspective as someone is hacking the feeds and making parody Fisk ads. Whoever the person is under that mask is a hero for referencing Ben Urich. It was so nice to actually see him again, even if we did have to be reminded of his death, but that's fine. I'll take what I can get nowadays. And I feel like we all know that's BB doing that, right? She made a point to say last season that she doesn't publish everything under her own name. She's hacking into her own feeds, talking about Ben Urich. It's gotta be her. You know I love to be delusional just as much as the next guy, but I don't think it's Foggy secretly trying to spread anti-Fisk propaganda or Mr. Charles doing this in private. All the clues point to this being BB herself, and I think that's a great position for her to be in as she's trying to combat her own narrative. I do want to talk about Mr. Charles though, because I think he's going to be a really interesting character this season as an antagonistic force to Fisk, sent in by Contessa Valentina Allegra de Fontaine. Was not expecting her to get a name drop or the Avengers Tower to even appear in this episode at all, so it's really cool to see those connections. But the fact that we're getting someone from the outside MCU force their way into Fisk's inner circle and directly challenge him is going to be a very interesting dynamic to play around with. When I heard that Matthew Lillard's character was going to be Fisk's biggest op this season, I thought he would be a good guy, but he's not a good man. He is there to facilitate and take advantage of the Freeport operation, but I especially love how he introduces this power struggle for Fisk as he's someone from above who's actively challenging his authority and control over New York City. It's such a great decision to have Fisk get more power than ever, all while finding out in real time that it's harder to maintain that power when you're in the spotlight and have people above you making decisions. Knowing how Fisk gets when he's undermined like that, I already fear for Mr. Charles' life, but at least Matthew Lillard is having the most fun anyone has ever had acting in this season. He is there to chew scenery and it is such a vibe every time he's on screen. We can all agree Mr. Charles is an alias though, right? That's definitely not his real name. There's going to be a big moment where he finds out he's a character from the comics. I don't know enough to make a credible theory and say someone like the Owl or Mr. Fear, but it's a real shame the Purple Man has already been used because that'd be the funniest possible thing Marvel could do. It's still so cool to me that Matthew Lillard is in the MCU now and could be playing a reoccurring character now as Val's right-hand man, unless Fisk turns his head into a fine paste, but don't kill Matthew Lillard, alright? He's funny, and I like him, and he's a great example of how this season is making interesting side characters. We're only one episode in, but I really appreciate just how much the side characters have to do this season. There's such a noticeable shift and improvement in the writing for all these characters to the point where I'm actually invested in what they're doing. And there is none more interesting than Heather Glenn, a sentence I never thought I would say, but I think it's fascinating what they're doing with her character. While she's interrogating the swordsman as part of the superhero trials, she gets a vision of Muse, and that made me jump watching the episode. I did not expect to see him back like this whatsoever, but I think it is such a creative decision that makes Heather one of the most interesting parts of the show now. Really love the camera work though, and how it tilts into this Dutch angle every time Muse comes on screen. It's so uneasy and does a great job showing us how Heather is starting to slip. The thing I disliked the most about Born Again Season 1 was how they handled Muse after building him up so well, only to make him a kid who did Taekwondo and then kill him off so unceremoniously. But I have to admit, this is kind of redeeming that decision. I can't say it makes up for it yet, but the fact that Heather's anti-vigilante radicalization makes more sense because she's been plagued by visions of Muse does a lot to justify her turn to the dark side, and it brings Muse back to being this mysterious threat again. With Heather starting to spiral more and more as she's out there drinking to try and stay calm, which always goes well, it makes me wonder, do we think she's going to become Lady Muse, a character recently introduced in the comics and maybe Born Again's way of bringing Muse back to the forefront and making that identity feel important again? It was the last thing I expected to see from Heather's character, especially with how her fate ends up in the comics, but I think that is such a bold swing that I am here for it, especially if they do the turn right. But with all that being said, I think I can fix her. Another side character who's getting much more to do this season is Kirsten McDuffie, one of my favorite Daredevil characters from the comics, who even is in my favorite Daredevil run, who might be getting more scenes in this one episode than she did the entirety of the last season, as she gets to show more character and backbone. It seems like Kirsten is going to be our point of view on the legal front this season, which makes sense because Matt can't go in public without getting shot, and it gives her something important to do. It's a little moment, but I really like her response to finding out that the trials against superheroes are going to be rigged from the start. It seems like this season is really going to test her belief in the law, and I cannot wait to see her come out on top of it as an even better lawyer. I love that she gets to tell the DA's office F you for trying to goad her into coming back. We're finally getting to see more of that Kirsten McDuffie sass that they teased last season, but now that she's gonna have a bigger role, we can properly explore it. But here's the thing, for as great as this episode was, it's the final 5 minutes that really had me jumping around my room in excitement. Daredevil fighting the anti-vigilante task force is cool and all, but Cherry is getting arrested and having a heart attack. Oh yes! Yes! This is vindication. This is a reward for having to suffer through every single minute of Cherry's screen time that should have been Brett Mahoney in Season 1. This is what we've all been waiting for, seeing Cherry finally get what's coming to him as he has a heart attack and suffers on screen. Am I being too mean to Cherry, whose full name is Cherry Pitts, which is very funny? For as much as I might want to see Cherry get shot in the head crazy style by Bullseye, I can't believe I'm going to say these words, this episode was the most likable Cherry has ever been. He's actually written well, he influences the narrative in an interesting way, and they made me feel bad for him. I don't like feeling bad for Cherry. I've spent the last year doing a bit where I scream about him dying, and now they make me feel sympathetic for him having a heart attack after just trying to help Matt? Cherry is a real character now, and he's kind of likable as the grandpa of Team Daredevil, so I guess I like Cherry now. But if you ever ask me about this again, I will deny and pray on his downfall, you hear me? At least I didn't have to think about that for too long because the action in this sequence is really great. I love the way it's shot and how Matt is moving around throughout the fight. He feels much more agile and he's using his weapons in really creative ways, and we get a primal scream which hits like crack. My second favorite moment of this ending, because we all know the best part, is when Matt gets distracted hearing Cherry's heart attack as he starts to remember the Foggy flashbacks. For as much as I do miss Foggy and refuse to believe he's dead, I love the fact that he's haunting the narrative like this and Matt is still unable to get past that. It is the single worst thing that has ever happened to him, and because of the fact that he can't move on, he makes a crucial mistake that leads to him getting unmasked. If the episode ended right there, I would have been screaming. But it gets even better when all of the anti-vigilante task force people are killed by Bullseye, who now saves Matt Murdock. What kind of bizarro world timeline have we ended up in? And who wrote this episode so I can give them the biggest kiss on the mouth for coming up with such a genius idea? The word aura gets thrown around a lot nowadays, but Bullseye making his presence known with just a knife that says "You're welcome" is the purest form of aura I have ever seen in my entire life. The fact that he even wrote "You're welcome" on the knife in the first place, considering that Matt can't see, is a perfect detail that gives me hope that they're leaning more into the whimsical side of Bullseye as he has fun with what he's doing. The contrast of Season 1 opening with Bullseye ruining Matt's life, and now Season 2 opening with Bullseye saving Matt's life, is a fascinating parallel that's only going to develop more and more as we see Bullseye get this pseudo-redemption arc. For the record, I don't think they're going to try and turn Bullseye into an anti-hero and make you feel sympathetic for him. I think they're going to do something much smarter and more interesting, in that Dex now thinks his actions are justified because the anti-vigilante task force wants him, not because he's a murderer, but because he's a vigilante, and they want him and Daredevil for that same reason. In Dex's twisted mind, he's going to think that reinforcement makes him a hero, and it's going to turn him into such a menace this season. He is going to be a problem, acting as this agent of chaos, constantly getting in Matt's way, as Bullseye thinks he's doing the right thing by killing all these people. And it's gonna get even juicier as Matt is forced to team up with him and work with the guy who's not only killing people, but killed his best friend in this enemy of my enemy situation. Oh my god, I love this direction they're gonna take Bullseye, because it shows me the writers understand these two characters and how Matt and Bullseye can play off of each other. I really hope that Daredevil becomes Bullseye's new North Star as this obsession develops and he centers his life around Daredevil, so that when they stop working together, Dex can see it as this sort of betrayal and then dedicate his life to ruining Matt's. Oh, dude, that cliffhanger is brutal. I cannot wait to see how they continue this next week and what this entire season has to offer. I feel like Marvel has shown us so little from it that I have no idea what to expect comes next. And that is the perfect place to be, because anything can happen. Are Daredevil and Bullseye actually going to work together? Is Cherry really going to become an important character? How is Muse going to play a role in this season? Are we going to see Kate Bishop rescue her stepfather, or are they going to refuse to bring her back to me? I legally have to mention her in every single video. You get it by now. We still haven't even seen Jessica Jones yet. There is so much potential for this season as we get to see a creative team with one singular vision take Daredevil to heights he's never been before. Oh my god, it's 2 a.m. right now and I feel like I could run a marathon. I'm so excited. I'm definitely not getting any sleep, but that's fine. Who needs sleep anyways when I can rewatch this episode on repeat over and over and over again? I honestly don't know how I'm supposed to wait a week for this, but at least we get to see 2 episodes next time. You know what? No, I can't wait that long. I'm still mad they made me feel sympathetic for Cherry, so I'm gonna go take my anger out on Marvel Studios and steal the episodes early. In the meantime, why don't you just let me know what you thought about the first episode of Born Again Season 2. I would genuinely love to hear what everyone has to say and continue the conversation down below. And while you're at it, make sure to give this video a like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. If you don't do it, I'm gonna shoot you in the head Bullseye style, which is just kind of shooting you in the head normally, but I'm still gonna do it Bullseye style.